Every series has a black sheep. You know, the one entry that just doesn't quite fit in. Star Fox has Adventures on the GameCube, Castlevania has Simon's Quest, and The Legend of Zelda has Zelda II. And if you're familiar at all with the Zelda series, it's pretty obvious why this game is considered the weird one. These adventures are important to so many people, so I understand why the standard of expectation for each game is so high. But because of that high expectation, I feel like the legacy of the series' second title is too often overlooked. Zelda II has kinda gotten a bad rap over the years, but for my money, this ambitious sequel has left a far greater impact on the series than anyone gives it credit for. Hi there, my name is Daniel, and I think Zelda II: The Adventure of Link is pretty creative. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? That seems to be the general spirit of conversation when Zelda 2 is brought up. Like, the original was fine, wasn't it? Why do we have to shoot off in such a weird direction for the sequel? And I mean, history has proven that Nintendo's first strategy clearly worked out better in the long run than this new approach. So why didn't they just stick with what they had in the first place? Well, okay, let's zoom out a bit and see if we can place ourselves in Shigeru Miyamoto's 1987 sneakers, shall we? He and his team had just broken the bank with their revolutionary hit, The Legend of Zelda, and knew that a sequel was pretty much a no-brainer. Miyamoto's an ideas guy, though, and he wanted to make sure this new project could stand on its own unique attributes, apart from the original. So, he and Tezuka, Nintendo's dynamic duo, essentially started development with an entirely new team of people who hadn't worked on the first game. Zelda 2 would share the series' name, world, and story with its predecessor, but pretty much everything else was up for grabs. Keep in mind that the sacred Zelda formula hadn't been fully established yet, so it wasn't as if they were uprooting years of series tradition or anything. And this experimental sequel strategy wasn't entirely uncommon either. In the early days of home console gaming, a title's financial success was far from guaranteed, and many developers weren't the powerhouses they are today. Nintendo, Sega, Konami, Squaresoft, they all had to pick their battles and use their available resources very carefully. So even though the first Zelda game was a massive hit, the boys at Nintendo were not ready to coast anytime soon. And while their second installment would end up being one of the series' only direct sequels, its gameplay would branch off in a wild new direction that, while not the most popular or revered today, would go on to quietly inspire countless more adventures in Hyrule. Let's start with the familiar, the story. Well, kind of. So apparently, 6 years after he defeated Ganon, Link noticed this peculiar mark on his left hand, which, according to Impa, means that he is the only one who can awaken Princess Zelda from her centuries-long slumber. Not this Zelda. We'll call this one Ancient Zelda. And this Ancient Zelda has been asleep since she was cursed by a wizard that her brother hired. Yikes. Family stuff, I guess. Anyway, the brother did this out of anger, since Ancient Zelda wouldn't tell him the secret location of the Triforce, and afterwards he felt so bad about it that he decreed all future Hyrulean princesses to be named Zelda in her honor. This legend is actually referred to as the titular Legend of Zelda, even though ironically, this is literally one of the only Zelda games to not have that full title. Now, you might be wondering what any of this has to do with Link. Well, since he's been marked worthy by the Triforce, it's now his job to undo this dude's mistake and wake Ancient Zelda up. And to do so, he's actually given 6 crystals that need to be placed in Hyrule's 6 palaces. These are actually the game's main quest items that track your progress. And unlike pretty much every other game in the series, your goal is actually to get rid of them instead of accumulating them throughout your adventure. And once you do get rid of all 6, you get access to the Great Palace, where Link's greatest trial awaits. It's also where the Triforce of Courage is housed. That's right, the third part of the Triforce actually wasn't introduced until this game. As you might have guessed, the completed Triforce is the key to waking Ancient Zelda. Oh yeah, and the whole time, Ganon's minions are hunting you down so they can use your blood to revive him, which is, fittingly, what happens when you die. On that cheerful note, let's talk about gameplay. And to get the obvious out of the way, yes, this game does look quite a bit different than pretty much every other Zelda game out there. Well, almost. Hey, get out of here. Who said you were invited to this party? So, as you probably noticed throughout this video, Zelda II is constantly switching back and forth between these two gameplay styles. The overworld is explored in this top-down format similar to the first game, as well as RPGs like Dragon Quest. But as soon as you enter a town, dungeon, or are attacked by a monster in the wild, you're immediately dropped into this side-scrolling format. My first thought, aside from how incredibly jarring and different it feels, was that this design choice might limit Zelda's potential as an exploration-based game. After all, in the original, you could move in all these different directions. How much could Nintendo really do with the game in which you only move side to side? If you're a Metroidvania fan, I'm sure you're already typing your comment right now. Because of course, Nintendo had already proven this concept a year prior when Metroid hit the market. A side-scrolling game can actually provide an excellent canvas for exploration-based gameplay, and Zelda II continues to provide evidence for this argument. In fact, the palaces in this game feel a lot less like Zelda dungeons and more like mini Metroidvania games. But there's actually a lot of interesting things going on around that core gameplay shift that are easy to overlook. Like Hyrule. Have you noticed it looks much different this time around? Well, actually, the map from the original game is here. It's just a lot smaller. Or should I say, Hyrule is actually a heck of a lot bigger this time around. And unlike the first game, Hyrule is now filled with all sorts of towns. See, in that game, the denizens of Hyrule resided pretty much exclusively in caves. There weren't really any notable settlements, although there were these temple-like structures and a massive cemetery. I'm not sure if this was because of hardware limitations or time constraints, but the relative absence of any established civilization makes the first Zelda feel almost a little post-apocalyptic, kinda like another game I know. But all that changes in Zelda II, because these towns are absolutely hopping. Seriously, there's people walking around outside these buildings, there's people inside the buildings, people just walking aimlessly with no goal in mind. I'm telling you, this is a bustling metropolis. And each of these towns serve as your primary hub for each of the game's main chapters. You'll come here to rest up, get magic upgrades, and receive hints about where you should head next. Ironically though, there actually aren't any shops in these villages, even though the last game had you buying stuff from people in frickin' caves. For the most part, each town goes hand in hand with the next dungeon you'll need to explore. And especially as you get deeper into your quest, you will absolutely need the hints these townsfolk have to offer. Because I'm gonna be honest, some of these puzzles are pretty freaking brutal, but in a different way than the previous game. Sure, you're not blindly bombing every wall you find in this game, thank goodness. But there are plenty of sections where you straight up cannot move forward if you don't have a specific piece of information. The first game had a few points like this, but most of its puzzles were found in navigating these wide open spaces you were given to explore. In Zelda II, these cryptic riddles are absolutely everywhere, and because your adventure is more linear this time around, it's a lot more common to find yourself stuck and unable to move forward at all. If you've ever played a Zelda game, you know that combat has never really been the series' forte. Zelda II actually stands out in this regard though, since its unique perspective allows for a much wider expression of combat options. For instance, Link can now crouch, which may not seem like a big deal at first, but this tiny movement allows the player to attack and defend from two different positions, which will prove useful against quite a few enemies in the game. You can also jump without the use of items, a feature that wouldn't return until Breath of the Wild 30 years later. You can also still shoot beams from your sword when you're at full health, but new this time around are some hidden combat skills like the upward and downward strikes, which should look pretty familiar if you're a Smash fan. In the previous game's top-down perspective, Link could really only do one attack with his sword, but in Zelda II, you've got a wealth of options at your disposal to truly make Link a force to be reckoned with. And this focus on combat also feeds directly into the game's new RPG mechanics. Did you notice we got some new friends up there on the heads-up display? That's right, defeating an enemy nets Link EXP in this adventure, which is like the oldest RPG trope in the book. But for Zelda, this is actually pretty unique. To this point, there has never been another entry in this series with a formal leveling system like this, and the result is that combat encounters, especially in the late game, can feel tedious and unrewarding. Link's got plenty of reasons to take out monsters in this game though, as leveling up provides you with 3 options of upgrades: attack, magic, and health. Technically, there's not actually a lot of choice if you're wanting immediate results, since each upgrade costs different amounts of EXP. But if you want to forego the health upgrade and save up for more magic instead, you freaking go for it. Which brings me to this title's magic system. Magical items have been a series staple since the original game, but having a dedicated magic meter? That's all Zelda II, baby. This is a major innovation, with ripple effects across a number of the series' games. And Zelda II commits to this emphasis on magic so fully that there are actually no formal items in the entire game. Sure, there's some passive items like the power glove and hammer, but the bow, boomerang, and bombs are nowhere to be found. Well, at least for Link. What you have instead is a number of magic spells that you'll be relying heavily on throughout your quest. A few, like Fairy, Thunder, and Spell, creative name there, have very specific uses to help you progress, but the others are incredibly useful in a variety of situations. Jump, as the name suggests, dramatically improves Link's jumping ability, while Fire allows him to shoot flames from a distance. Then there's the Reflect spell, which sends back enemy attacks, and the always helpful Shield spell, which cuts the damage you take in half. And finally, we've got Life, which you'll mainly want to save for boss fights, as it heals you but also uses most of your magic. Link may not be a walking armory like he is in other Zelda games, but he's never been more in touch with magic. Zelda II: The Adventure of Link may not be the most revered or celebrated game in the series, but if you're a Zelda fan today, you can thank this game for a lot. Zelda II expanded the world, brought the lore, and fleshed out the series' combat potential. It introduced an in-depth magic system and brought RPG upgrades to the table. Heck, the names of the towns even inspired Ocarina of Time's sages. This may not look like the Zelda you know and love, but it was a key step in developing the series' identity as we know it today. Because some of the most influential parts of our stories come from the most unlikely places. Have you ever tried something that didn't quite work out the way you intended? Like a new job, a major in college, or a new place you moved to? Maybe you decided not to stick with it, but that doesn't mean it didn't have an impact on your growth as a person. Some of the most valuable experiences I've had have been the ones that haven't worked out. Maybe this door is closed, but at least now I know so I can walk through another door. I am so incredibly grateful that I can be guided through my detours, tangents, and even missteps, just as much as through my successes. Our past might influence who we are today, but it's how we respond to that past that truly shapes us. Thanks for watching, y'all. I want to dedicate this episode to my incredible wife, who never stops encouraging me to move forward and try new things. Kristen, you remind me so often that I'm not defined by my successes or my failures, and you push me to grow in every step we take together. I love you always. And for the rest of you friends, I want you to know that you're loved, you're valuable, and you are creative. God bless y'all. Have a great day.